Ever since Kaveh was announced as a playable character, fans have been eager to find out if he's worth pulling for or not. Though I'd argue that you can just take a quick glance at him and know that even an unwanted Baiju cannot stop me from my quest. Yet today, we'll be taking a closer look at Kaveh's abilities, strength, weaknesses, and overall utility in the game's current state and meta. There's been a lot of buzz around him being too niche, but is that really true? I'm May, an aspiring content creator for Genshin Impact as well as Hoyoverse's newest game, Honkai Star Rail, and I focus on kit and lore analysis as well as guides to help you out during your journey. So without further ado, let's dive in. Kaveh is a 4-star dendro unit who wields a claymore, though that is debatable. I'd say he wields Marag, who in return wields the claymore. Kaveh's entire kit focuses around the small assistant he created from ancient Deshra technology, allowing him to scan dendro cores in a certain area around him and making them all explode at once. Additionally, during his burst, he's able to deal dendro damage throughout the entire duration of said burst, since his normal, charged, and plunging attacks are being converted and cannot be overridden. As a dendro unit, Kaveh has many teams he can fit in, such as Bloom, Spread and Quicken, and Persian teams. Yet, it is very clear that there's a catch to it. His kit favors certain team comps and certain reactions that many players might not have access to. As I stated before, as a dendro unit, he has many teams he can make use of, and his once Ascension passive heals him from all dendro core explosions, such as Burgeon and not just Bloom. Yet there's already the first catch. Neither Spread, Aggravate, nor Hyper Bloom produce dendro cores, making his passive and his high survivability useless in these teams. No dendro cores, no healing. To get this out of the way, I do not think that Kaveh is FTP friendly. I love this character to bits, he's one of my favorite characters in the entire game, but he sure isn't an investment, and I don't mean himself directly. First, to fully capitalize on his entire kit, you should definitely play Bloom. His skill states that specifically dendro cores produced through Bloom reactions will deal additional damage, not Burgeon cores that explode on impact. Second, that means you should get Nidou. Yet not many people pulled for her back then during her initial release due to Bloom being unexplored at the time and the entire focus being on Spread and Quicken at the start of Sumeru. Now that Nidou had her rerun, many players decided to get Nahida instead. She fits into every dendro team there is and is the core unit most of the time. Thus, only a select number of people have Nidou. She is vital to Bloom teams since she is the only character in the game who can produce bountiful cores, which deal more damage than your regular Bloom cores. What also specifically helps Kaveh is that she provides a slight EM boost. That means so far, Kaveh is basically bound to Nidou if you want to give his Bloom team its full potential. Since we also just talked about Nahida, she's part of his premium team too, due to her ultimate providing an elemental mastery bonus to the entire party, heightening Kaveh's survivability as well as the damage of the blooms created. Even though Kaveh is self-healing, you should at least have some safety net. To create even more dendro cores, a Hydro healer would be the perfect addition to his team, which we only have Barbara and Kokomi of so far. That means Kaveh's highest potential relies on a very expensive team consisting of 3 5-star units, which of only one is the popular choice for people to pull. You can of course make do with other units such as Xingqiu or Yelan, but then you'd have to replace him with another healer that is most optional, a dendro or a Hydro unit in order to trigger Nidou's passive at all and to not trigger other reactions next to Bloom. And the only healers we have of dendro so far are Yaoyao and the newly released Baiju. You see, Bloom itself is kind of in a tight spot. It is a very good reaction, but it is way smaller corner of the matter compared to Spread and Aggravate or Quicken. Yet with all these cons, they are pretty compelling reasons why you should consider building exactly such a team around Kaveh. Kaveh is a very consistent character, whether it's his skill, burst, constellation, which we'll be going through in depth shortly, or passive talent. You can tell that Hoyoverse really sat back and thought about what Bloom could really need right now. Since the beginning, it has always been a rather expensive reaction due to Nidou, Nahida and Kokomi making up the team. You just throw another dendro character in there. Due to Bloom also being the biggest if I go down, at least you go down with me type of damage, aka the first introduction to friendly fire in Genshin Impact, no characters except for Nilou and Kokomi could withstand the damage their own cores made. Prior to Kave's release, I used to play Bloom with Alhaitham as the driver since his dendro application is the fastest as of now, but he's pretty fragile and I was very dependent to go back to Kokomi and spend time in her ult, which are precious seconds you're wasting in the Abyss. Abyss teams always have been the best if you have a lot of off-field things going on at the same time and a DPS who can go through it without having to be switched out every couple seconds. This is where Kave comes in. In my opinion, he is exactly what Bloom missed and needed to become something players should invest into. Due to his self-healing abilities that can trigger twice a second and scale off of his Elemental Mastery stat, he basically becomes unkillable. You watch the group of enemies around you fall one after another, but even though you get hit as well and lose quite some health if your Bloom team is good and the bountiful cores hit like hell, Kave's health is back to high or even full pretty quickly. He survives on Kokomi's healing ticks and his own healing alone, meaning he can stay on field constantly and be the driver for the Blooms unlike any other unit we have in the game so far. I'd go even so far as to say that this makes Kave the most important Bloom character in the entire game as of 3.6. You can produce Blooms without Nilou through other characters, they just won't be as super strong as with her. But without Kave, you'll stressfully be switching from one character to another, trying to keep everyone alive from the friendly fire, while he just can stay on field and take it. I think that makes him the new core of Bloom teams. His C1 increases his dendro resistance by 50% as well as all incoming healing bonuses by 25% within 3 seconds after using his elemental skill. That means that his ability to stay on field and tank the reactions gets even better. At C2, his normal attack speed is increased by 15% during his ultimate, which lasts for 12 seconds. This is the first sweet spot you could stop at if you want a little bonus to Kave. While playing with him without C2 and with C2, he definitely feels a lot more fluid and smooth to play. Also, faster attack speed also means more dendro cores, and more dendro cores means more damage and more healing to exploit. If you're set to go further though, his C6 is a really great and final upgrade to his kit. C4 makes the Blooms that Kave triggers deal 60% more damage when they burst, but it is not likely that Kave will have ownership of the Blooms very often. C4 is more of something nice that might happen on accident during your rotations or if you have a lot of Hydro off-field. C6 is the final upgrade where if he does normal, charged or plunging attacks, Kave unleashes another attack during his ultimate that scales off 61.8% of his attack and makes all the existing dendro cores within range burst again. Since this effect can trigger every 3 seconds, it's a pretty nice damage upgrade, and if you time it right, you'd basically be making cores explode constantly with his skill and his C6 proc constantly. Overall, I think that Kave's Constellation nowhere make him go from a bad unit to a functioning character like some cases we have in Genshin. He works perfectly fine at C0, you get a bit of comfortability with C1 and C2, and then a big damage upgrade during C6. But that's it. If you happen to get him C0 and do not want to use more resources or possibly get an unwanted 5-star, you'll still have a complete character. To wrap this up, I think Kave is a must pull if you're someone who enjoys Bloom and has been waiting to play it more comfortably. If you're a general fan of dendro reactions, you could also just build him into a spread DPS if you do not care too much about the self-healing and dendro core part of his kit. Due to dendro being a pretty broken element itself, you can make him work outside of Bloom as well. Obviously, he won't be as good as a DPS like a Alhaitham or a Nahida, but it's an option if you don't like Bloom or have access to a good Bloom team. All in all, Kave is a pretty solid unit that can be game-changing for you. If you decide to play Bloom, that is. If you made it this far all the way until the end, I'd like to thank you for clicking on my first character kit analysis, and I hope I will see you next time where I talk about the best teams and artifacts for our beloved architect. If this video was helpful to you, consider liking or subscribing to the channel to not miss out on other updates. Who knows, maybe the next video will be about your favorite character. Until then, bye bye!